Only a few days after the biggest win of his career, Daniel Rodriguez found himself behind bars in a Tijuana jail cell.
What I was thinking would turn into what was going to be, probably a little weekend or maybe overnight, turn into 8 months, man.
All of a sudden, he saw himself trading UFC gloves for handcuffs, and instead of preparing for his next fight, he became a glorified bodyguard for a cartel boss. So this is Daniel Rodriguez in one of the most random MMA stories ever. Everything about D-Rod's career is a little out of the norm. The guy made his professional debut at 28 years old, which is relatively old for a newcomer, especially since he didn't come from another combat sport like DC or Damian Maia. But the thing is, he's been fighting all his life.
I grew up around gang life, both of my parents, my mom and my dad, are both from neighborhoods, and both gang affiliated. A lot of my family members are. Myself at one point, I spent a lot of time locked up, and I got a lot of fights. I got a lot of brawls and shit. I guess, that's what kind of led me to the fearlessness that I have to fight these fucking guys, and the fact that I made it out of that with MMA, has completely changed my life.
Most welterweights start to slow down after the 30-year-old mark, but at that age, he was only getting started.
Me climbing up the ranks with Lee being ranked number 11, so I'm interested to see where I sit at in the rankings, and I just want to keep climbing.
In his early UFC run, he beat guys like Kevin Lee and Mike Perry and established himself as a decent contender near the top 10. And as a fighter, he was as entertaining as it gets. He built a name for fighting with heart, throwing himself into the fire, willing to take punches to give some back in return. And his personality makes him all the more interesting as a character. For some reason, Josh Hokett, the UFC heavyweight, occasionally plays a character, a Mexican gangster act he brings out now and then. Turns out, D-Rod is that guy in real life.
What's scarier, a jail fight or a cage fight in the UFC?
Shit, you ever been in a fight in a jail cell?
Never.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So once you fight in a jail cell, this cage fighting is nothing to you.
Nah.
Really?
Nah, man, I've been through worse. There's a referee in there, you know what I mean?
All right.
There's
So
a referee.
someone to stop the fight.
Yeah, there's somebody to stop it. I've been in a situation where ain't nobody gonna stop it, so
right.
It's Kill Bill. It's
right.
Kill Bill over here.
The peak of his career, at least so far, was at UFC 318 when he beat Kevin Holland by decision. That fight was easily one of the most entertaining fights of 2025, with both fighters nearly knocked out. To be able to take punishment from a heavy hitter like Holland took real grit, but he never lacked determination.
Coming in there against a 30-year-old Daniel D-Rod Rodriguez, who had been on a pretty rough streak himself of losses of late, I assumed Holland would continue streaking toward an eventual, knock on the door of real title contention at 170. Instead, he fought a head-tattooed version of D-Rod who was aggressively looking to save his job. And I really think he did just that. An impressive and at times powerful unanimous decision victory.
Now, not everyone can be a champion. In fact, most fighters don't. But D-Rod was starting to become a personality that fans wanted to tune into, and sometimes that's enough. He had the style and lingo to captivate fans, similar to how Masvidal and the Diaz brothers did, and the victory over Holland was the one to finally put him on the map. That fight was his ticket out of the undercard, and the introduction many fans had to him. If he played his cards right, he could enter the top 10 and go straight into mainstream recognition. But he somehow managed to fumble this in the craziest way possible. This is when his story takes an absurd turn. Following his huge victory over Holland, D-Rod was on top of the world. That kind of moment deserves a celebration. And what better place to celebrate than Tijuana, Mexico?
Right after the Kevin Holland fight, actually, I was celebrating. I was over in San Diego, had some drinks, and decided, you know what, let's go to TJ.
Always a phrase that is regretted.
Well, we're not even
when
that
you're in
far.
San Diego and you're drinking, you can walk there. Shit.
Yeah, literally. So, decided to go to TJ for the night. Go celebrate my win. I was obviously in celebration mode.
So far, no harm done, right? He entered Latin America looking to spend a weekend partying, but the catch is that the 2-day party eventually turned into months.
Went on vacation to cross the border. I crossed the border of Mexico and forgot I had a little bag of weed with me, man. It was under an ounce, and got pulled over at the line and got checked, man. And man, the border patrol were tripping on the weed, and you know, I was thinking I was only going to be in there like probably the weekend, maybe a little bit shorter, but man, the laws over there out there in Mexico, they're way different, man. They don't play no games, you know.
Actually, Mexican laws aren't that different. While weed consumption is no longer a crime in the country, trying to cross the border with the substance becomes something else entirely. Anyone who has looked at the history of drug smuggling on the US-Mexico border would likely say that trying to enter the states with any amount of weed is probably not the best idea.
I had an ounce of weed in the car, you know, and I've been across the border 100 times, bro. Never had no issues, never had no problems, never got stopped, pulled over. That's the last thing I would even think is that.
I thought weed was legal in Mexico.
I thought so too. Like here,
I thought everything's decriminalized down there.
Apparently not, man.
Somehow, the guy managed to turn a weekend in Tijuana into a world of trouble. One moment he was riding high off the biggest win of his career, next he was staring down a border agent with an ounce of weed on him. Just like that, he went from facing Kevin Holland to facing potential federal charges that could very well end his career. And getting out of that situation would have been the best thing for him. He even tried to bribe his way out, which might have worked on regular cops, but these ones didn't budge.
I was thinking I was going to be in that situation where I could bribe my way out of it because it's Mexico. I've been there before and I've been in these situations. And nah, man, I thought, you know, they took me to jail that night. And I was thinking, all right, I'm just going to be here for the weekend. I'll get out Monday, you know, go to court. And they're like, no, we'll see you in a month. I'm like, a month?
What most likely happened is that he was stopped by the National Guard, assisting the aduanas agents. If he had been caught by a border agent or a regular cop, things might have played out differently. But unfortunately, he picked the wrong place and the wrong time to accidentally commit a federal offense. Out of the blue, he was in handcuffs on his way to a Mexican prison. For an older athlete attempting to make it in the UFC, a maximum sentence of 6 years would be it. If it came to that, he may as well call it a career. One of the top welterweights in the world, on the verge of breaking into the top 10, found himself in a place where, instead of fighting for bonuses, the real prize would be commissary snacks. On the outside, people had no idea what was going on. It took several weeks before reports emerged about his arrest, but no one knew why and for how long he'd be locked up. And on the inside, his nightmare was only getting started. The first 12 days in jail were some of the worst. While waiting for his ruling, he experienced the worst hospitality Tijuana has to offer.
Over there, it's not like out here. I've been in jail over here where there's like the LA County jail, where it's like it's not prison, but over there they throw you straight in. It's straight into prison, and yeah, man, my first like 12 days there, I was in like a 6-man cell with like 25 people in there, man. Dudes sleeping on the floor, 2 men per bunk, and I couldn't even sleep, man. It was just disgusting in there. It's horrible. It's the most horrible situation you could think of.
To make matters worse, while living under extreme conditions, he was also waiting to know whether he'd make it out of there in a matter of weeks or years. Talk about an anxiety-inducing experience. And once word spread about a UFC fighter being locked up, he turned into a minor celebrity behind bars.
One of the guards recognized me and started asking me for pictures. You know, I'm like, what the hell? You know, so all the guards are right there taking pictures, and I'm like, all right. So some of the inmates saw that, you know, and one inmate asked like, yo, like, what's up with you? Like this and that. And I didn't really want to say anything, you know. In a situation like that, you want to keep the lowest profile, because me being who I am is kind of like, you know, kind of like a target on my back, you know. Like, you know, people are gonna want to test you. People are gonna want to, you know, you never know. So I always just wanted to keep a low profile.
Getting that much attention when going behind bars is bound to draw the wrong kind of crowd, and the status ended up attracting a few bad apples looking to capitalize on his name. The cops, the very people who are supposed to be the safety net in there, tried to take advantage of him. Suddenly, the guy who had just said he had paid bribes to guards hundreds of times was surprised by how corrupt the system actually is there.
The reason why that I was in there so long is, I guess, at the time where I got arrested, the whole judicial system was going through an election at the time. So it was new judges, So all the judges that were like taking bribes and stuff before, they had all got they switched out the judges. So the new judges were like, all right, we just got here. We're not trying to take no, we're trying to play it by the book and get comfortable.
Everything went downhill fast. Every week that went by was one less week of doing what he loved. And for a guy who just wants to fight and get paid, that's about as bad as it gets. Regardless, he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Either pay up the bribe and get to a better cell, or continue living in an overcrowded cell with a bunch of other inmates. Now, most of us have never been to prison, but in times like these, it's always worth asking, what would Adam Sandler do in this situation? In The Longest Yard, Sandler befriends the biggest and baddest man in jail with a ping pong match and then convinces him to join his football team. Seems like something crazy that could only happen in movies, right? Well, we would soon find out that D-Rod took a page straight out of Adam Sandler's playbook. Turns out being a UFC fighter gives you street cred among the toughest guys in a Mexican prison.
Dude's like head of the cartel, like a cartel leader, and he's like, I want to just show you around a little bit, let you know how we're running things over here, Kind of just gave me the rundown. And this dude had it made. I get there and there's TVs in the fucking cell. Dude has a PlayStation. He has like a whole bunch of just all the amenities you can think of. He's like showing me around and shit, kind of showing me off. He's like, hey guys, look at this guy, he's a UFC fighter.
This mysterious cartel boss offered to take him in. A better cell, more comfort. It was as good as it could get down there, and it was a win-win scenario for both of them. D-Rod found a more comfortable way to do his time, while the cartel boss got himself one of the most dangerous fighters in the world as his own glorified bodyguard. But was he being protected, or was he being used as a weapon? Guess it didn't really matter.
I was put in a good position. And I was, pretty much backup for one of the main dudes in there. For the guy that ran the whole prison. You could just say I was his backup, man, and I didn't have no problems at all.
So for months on end, Dana White was no longer his boss. Instead, some cartel dude called all the shots. Meanwhile, he did his best to stay in good shape. Improvised speed bags running around the yard and some pad work became his training camp. And without much info going public, fans floated crazy rumors about what happened to him. From charity work in Africa to Kevin Holland coming to save the day, some people were willing to believe anything.
That day, like, oh, he's building wells in Rwanda doing God's work. And like people ran with that. Like, hey, actually people, when I got released right away, they were like, oh, Kevin Holland bailed him out. Kevin Holland bailed him out to get a rematch, and people believe that.
That's
crazy.
Hilarious.
But living with a cartel boss of all things made his time go by more easily. Nearly 9 months after trying to cross the border, he was finally released from prison. And what's weird about it is that the entire story remains murky. He never really talked about the actual sentence or why he was released at all. In fact, he's been relatively cryptic about it.
What is this deal that you come to in order to get you released?
I can't really speak on that right now, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't really speak on the details of it, but it's it came with a price.
Okay.
I don't even know if I could say that,
All things considered, the whole thing was a net loss for him. He lost an entire year of activity for allegedly having less than an ounce of weed on him. But at least it was a learning experience. Turns out, trying to cross the border with illegal substances on you is, in fact, not a great idea.
Yeah, just like to raise a little bit of awareness, everybody. Like, man, be careful when you're crossing that border right now.
And now, fresh out of jail, he already has another big challenge in front of him. If anything, the Mexican prison story seems to have elevated his popularity more than the Holland win. So much so that D-Rod will be headlining his first ever event in a few weeks. He'll be facing Uroš Medic at the main event of UFC Fight Night 183. And all things considered, the odds are stacked heavily against him. Every other athlete spent the last year training, eating right, and getting in shape. Meanwhile, Rodriguez was stuck in a cell somewhere in Mexico with little access to decent food, sleep, or a gym.
The worst part about the whole thing was the food. I feel a little bit unhealthy, a little malnourished, I think that was the toughest part.
On top of that, he's now only a couple months away from turning 40 years old. And while starting his career later means his body hasn't been beaten up as much, eventually Father Time takes its toll. Even the UFC seems aware of that. After all, they booked the fight in Medic's home country in Serbia, as if the nearly 7-year age gap or the involuntary time off wasn't enough. For a guy who found himself in a situation like this, it's not like adversity will have much of an impact. Most of his UFC fights have been short notice replacements, and he's still never backed down. And this is the crazy story of Daniel Rodriguez, from winning the biggest fight of his life to then becoming the world's worst smuggler and subsequently a bodyguard for a cartel boss. Nothing about him makes a whole lot of sense. So what's one more time stepping into the cage with the odds stacked sky high against you gonna do?